Horizon, an American saga, is about surveyors planning a new town called Horizon in 1859 on Apache land, but are killed in an attack. A missionary finds their bodies and starts a settlement there. By 1863, Horizon thrived until an Apache raid shattered it, forcing survivors to seek help from the U.S. Army. Some stay with the soldiers, while others hunt the Apache, sparking conflict over land, survival, and the cost of building a future in the West. The story begins in San Pedro Valley, 1859. An Apache war band watches from a cliff as two surveyors and a young boy start marking plots for a new town called Horizon. One young Apache questions why the men chose this spot, but his friend just shrugs. Nearby, a missionary named Desmarais rides through the desert, drawn by a flyer for the new town. He meets a man at a ruined church who says he already passed Horizon. When Desmarais returns, he finds the surveyors and the boy murdered. Saddened, he buries them and decides to stay and continue their work. Later, in the Montana Territory, a woman named Lucy arrives at a remote cabin. She shoots the sleeping owner, James Sykes, in the chest, releases his horse, and rides off with her baby, Sam. Barely alive, James is found and brought back to his family's compound. Mrs. Sykes, the family matriarch, orders James's sons, Caleb and Junior, to hunt Lucy down. By 1863, Horizon has grown into a small tent city, and new settlers kept arriving. One night, the town celebrates in the dance hall. Frances Kittredge, her husband James, and their children, Nat and Elizabeth, return to their home on a nearby cliff after the party. That night, an Apache group attacks, burning the town and killing many settlers. The townsfolk fight back, but there are heavy losses on both sides. Some locals make it to the Kittredge house to help the family, but the Apache eventually overpower them. Frances and Elizabeth hide in a crawl space under the house, using a shotgun barrel pushed through the ground to breathe. James and Nat stay outside to keep fighting. Meanwhile, a young local named Russell escapes on horseback. The next day, the surviving settlers come out of hiding to see the destruction. The Apache band returns to their mountain village. Russell rides to nearby Camp Gallant and informs the U.S. Army about the attack. Lieutenant Trent Gephardt and Sergeant Major Thomas Reardon led soldiers to Horizon to assess the damage and bury the dead. Gephardt warns the settlers that Horizon's location made it easy for the Apache to attack. At the Apache village, a young warrior named Pionsene argues with the elder, Twayese, about the attack. Twayese worries that it will bring retaliation from the settlers and prefers peace. But Pionsene refuses to live in hiding and insists they must keep fighting. Twayese banishes Pionsene from the Apache village, along with other men who agree with Pionsene's belief in fighting back. One of the men, Taklashim, argues with his wife about how his actions have caused so much suffering, leaving many widows and orphans. Despite her anger, she agrees to go with him. Twayese's son visits him and says he has decided to join Pionsene. Twayese accepts his decision and tells him they will meet again someday. Later, Twayese speaks in English with another son about the situation. At Horizon, Reardon tells Russell that his parents are dead. Chavez, a Pima Indian scout working with the army, leads a group to track the Apache. When Chavez returns to Horizon, he finds the crawl space under the Kittredge house. He leads a rescue effort that frees Frances and Elizabeth. Gephardt advises the remaining settlers to leave Horizon and move to Camp Gallant. Frances and Elizabeth bury James and Nat, who died in the attack, before joining the army convoy to Gallant. Elias Janney tells Gephardt that he and some men, including Russell, plan to hunt the Apache for revenge and to collect scalps. Gephardt warns them it's a bad idea, but doesn't stop them since there's no law in the territory. Meanwhile, Lucy, now going by the name Ellen Harvey, lives in a small mining town with her son, Sam, and her husband, Walter Childs. They share a house with Marigold, a prostitute. A horse trader named Hayes Ellison arrives in town with some men, and Marigold flirts with him, sharing gossip and town secrets. She convinces Hayes to meet her at her house later. Lucy and Walter plan to leave town for business, reluctantly leaving Sam with Marigold. At Camp Gallant, Frances and Elizabeth adjust to their new life and thank Gephardt for saving them. Gephardt and Reardon meet with Colonel Albert Houghton, who disagrees with Gephardt's warning about rebuilding Horizon. Houghton believes white settlers will eventually take the land, even if it costs lives. Lucy and Walter arrive at a cabin for a land deal, but realize it's a trap set by Caleb and Junior. The brothers tell Lucy they plan to take her and Sam back to their father, who is still alive. Walter tries to protect Lucy, but Caleb kills him with a blow to the head. Lucy tries to escape but is caught. Caleb and Junior argue, as Junior is angry about having to bury Walter's body. Junior sends Caleb back to the mining town. In town, Caleb sees Hayes on the street and begins taunting him. Hayes stays quiet and walks away, but Caleb follows him, continuing to mock him. Caleb follows Hayes to Marigold's house, where they get into a shootout. Hayes kills Caleb and quickly leaves town, taking Marigold and Sam with him. In western Kansas, Matthew Van Wyden leads a wagon train along the Santa Fe Trail. The group includes Juliet Chesney and Hugh Proctor, a wealthy British couple, and the Kittredge family, including Owen Kittredge and his daughter Diamond. While the group stops to fix broken wagon wheels, a horse panics. Diamond steps in and frees the horse, preventing an accident. Matthew scolds Hugh and Juliet for not helping enough. Juliet stands up to him, but Hugh quickly agrees to do more. Later, Matthew notices two Pawnee scouts tracking the caravan and decides to camp early to avoid trouble. That evening, Juliet uses some of the group's limited water to bathe and is caught naked by two young men. When Hugh asks Matthew to punish the men, Matthew instead scolds Hugh and Juliet for wasting water. The two young men deny the accusation and refuse to take orders from Matthew. Later, they watch Hugh and Juliet from a distance. Meanwhile, Elias, Russell, and Tracker encounter a native man and his family at an outpost. Tracker tries to make Russell shoot the man, but Russell refuses. The group lets the man go. Later, Tracker suggests they hire native men to help them find the Apache, even if they can't be sure they're targeting the right people. Elias and Russell agree to continue the hunt. Junior returns home with Caleb's body and tells his father he has already sent men to track down Hayes and Marigold. Hayes notices they're being followed and watches Junior and his men search a settlement from a hillside. Marigold, tired of running, wants to stop, but Hayes insists they can't because the Sykes family won't let her live. Marigold starts an affair with a traveling gambler who urges her to leave Hayes and Sam. She spends one last night with Hayes, then abandons Sam with a group of Chinese immigrant workers and leaves town. Hayes wakes up to find her gone and accepts it. At Camp Gallant, part of the army is sent to fight in the Civil War. Francis and Elizabeth say goodbye to the soldiers, and Elizabeth offers them a blessing, lifting their spirits. Francis and Gephardt share a moment by the river and kiss. Tracker, Elias, Russell, and their group find an Apache camp and wait for the men to leave on a hunt. When the men are gone, they attack the women and children left behind. Russell is horrified as Tracker scalps the bodies. The group finishes their attack and leaves before the Apache men return. The film ends with a montage of the characters in their separate storylines, including a glimpse of Pickering printing more flyers to advertise the town of Horizon. The end. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe for more videos.